Hello, I'm Logic Projects and welcome back to another devlog. To finish out February, I participated in the Wowie Game Jam with my girlfriend. This is my second game jam and now I'm much more experienced using Unity, so I'm actually really proud of the product. So our game was called Ages of Extinction. We have a very nice title screen, and once you press start, you come flying out of a giant soup pot as the flying spaghetti monster. You have a dialogue narrating your thoughts as you spawned into the world, showing up in the top left of the screen, and then you can move around and discover various planets around the solar system. After a little bit, you'll decide on which planet you want to colonize, and you can press E to go ahead and spawn some monkeys on that planet. But because the planet has no water or metal and is probably too cold, the monkeys will eventually die off. After you've realized the monkeys die off, you can go down and get some water from the soup pot that birthed you, and then you can go back up and bring the water to the planet to make the planet more suitable for life. Once you pour the water on the planet, you're able to then respawn more monkeys, and this time they'll grow and evolve into humans and some trees will grow. But eventually, after the humans form a few basic villages, they'll all die out again because this time they don't have enough metal, and they need metal before they can turn their villages into cities. You can see that the spaghetti monster was boned and rigged, and I tried out Unity 2D bone animation for the first time with this project. When you need more metal, you can click on an asteroid to bring some metal back to the planet, and the asteroid will follow you along with a spring joint, and then you can swing it into the planet to deliver more metal. But of course, hitting the planet with a giant asteroid will cause them all to go extinct once again. But now, the next time you spawn life, the monkeys will come, then people, and this time they'll have enough metal on the planet to build cities. And every time, going for a stage that you've already progressed through will progress a little bit faster. Now you're at the steady state of the game, where you can go and add more water and bring more metal back to the planet, and quickly get the population to blossom into a full planet. You might notice that once the cities form, all the people will die out, and that's due to global warming. You'll see the big sun in the bottom right will tell you that your planet is probably too hot, and you need to move it away from the sun. You can click on it in the same way you could click on an asteroid, and you can drag it around, and once you've dragged it far enough away from the sun, you can try to spawn life again and see if you've hit the perfect balance to develop a civilization that can reach space. Overall, we're very happy with how we did. We came number 65th for creativity, and we came in the top 400 for visuals and sounds. I feel like this is a very good ranking for my second month of game development, and I'm really happy with what we made. As always, I'm really grateful for all the great artwork that my girlfriend made for me. This time I actually convinced her to participate with me for the Saturday and Sunday of the jam, not just the Sunday. So I'm hoping by the end of March I'll have her participating in all 3 days. And I think what she made is some really beautiful art, and I just want to show that off. It's amazing to have someone so talented I get to work with for projects like this. And the categories that we did highest in was visual and sound after creativity, and she both chose all of the sounds and created all of the visuals. So she scored much higher in the game jam than I did, when you look at all things considered. The game jam took place over 3 days, and the theme was failure is progress. This was actually a really hard theme for me to come up with an idea for. I started out thinking about like a clumsy scientist who keeps falling over and breaking beakers, and then those beakers combine to accidentally discover cures to diseases and stuff. I really struggled to turn this into a fun experience though, and we dropped the idea pretty fast. We wanted to avoid platformers because it seemed like everyone was going to do a platformer where an obstacle was invisible or you had to fall on spikes to progress. I then started going down a circle of life idea and thinking of like the mythical phoenix, where every time it gets too hot and burns up and then is reborn from the ashes. And I came up with the idea that you would have planets that you're trying to like start life on, and every time the planet dies out, they leave behind the infrastructure they had before. So you could build up a society and then start a new one in its ruins, and that new society would be able to outpace the original, which is how it fits into failure's progress. Admittedly, this fell kind of far away from the original theme of failure's progress and the sub-theme of let's mess with the concept of winning and losing. And we didn't score that great on theme, but I still think the inspiration was good enough that it was in the spirit of the jam. While I was brainstorming, I came up with the idea that I would interpret this theme as messing with how the player perceived their progress in the game. I thought the goal with Failure's Progress would be to have the character always actually progressing, but to trick the player into thinking that they had just suffered a major loss. So think of like when you die in a Mario level, you go back to the beginning and you feel like you lost progress. But in this jam, when you die and go back to the beginning, you feel like you lost progress, but you're actually still progressing at a pretty constant rate. And so I tried to create a lot of these moments where it felt like you just lost all your progress, but it was actually a critical step that you had to do to continue on with the game. Or you felt like you lost all your progress, and then the next time it was much faster for you to get back to where you were, so you actually didn't lose that much. I think this was a very interesting framework because it changed the jam about like putting like fake spikes around and stuff like that for me into actually designing a player experience where you never have a frustrating loss. You can lose all measurable progress and still not be as bad off as if you just refreshed the page and started the game over. At the end of the day, this game was really overscoped for me. I had never made a game of this style. Obviously, this was the third game I'd ever programmed, and I got a little too ambitious thinking I'd be able to have water, metal, and heat be resources you had to manage. Making a resource management game from the ground up was a bit too much for me to do in 72 hours. For water, I ended up following the Code Monkey tutorial he posted a few weeks ago, and I didn't have time to implement all the shader magic he did to make the water look good, but I was still able to spawn a ton of rigid bodies and make it look like you're actually pouring water out of your bucket. For metal, I made it where you could grab onto asteroids, and we played around with the spring joint for the first time ever, and that was a ton of fun, and I really want to make a game that's just all about these spring joints. But when you click on an asteroid, you can bring it back to the planet, and then you have to like swing it around yourself to hit the planet with it. And every time you hit the planet with an asteroid, you're of course causing a mass extinction, so you have to start over, but now they have metal so they can build cities and satellites. Heat, I think, is the most poorly implemented system. Once your people reach the stage where they have cities and a ton of people on the planet will get hot, and the UI will tell you that it's too hot on the planet and everyone will die out. And then all you have to do is click and move the planet with the same joints that you move asteroids away from the sun. Heat was the last system I added, and it turned out that that caused a lot of weird bugs. Because I was using Cinemachine to try out some new cameras, and I didn't really test moving planets around until the very end, I didn't realize it was possible for you to move planets into other planet spheres of influence, or the soup pot sphere of influence. I ended up pulling an all-nighter for this jam. My girlfriend went to bed at 10 p.m. and gave me the last of the art. I worked through the night for about the next 8 hours to implement all the remaining features, the dialogue system, the global warming system, the entire planet prefab, sound, music, and just way too much for me to put on myself in one night. And by the time the sun came up, I had uploaded builds, and it actually took me, I was so sleep deprived, it took me 3 different builds before I could have something that was playable and didn't have a glaring bug. I even took the time to upload a full build to itch.io that had the end screen just enabled from the beginning. I do my best work at night. I tend to work best from about like 10 p.m. to 2 to 4 a.m. That's when I get my hours in, but pushing beyond that all the way up until the 8 a.m. deadline was too much for me. And my code definitely started to suffer. I wrote some really heinous code that I'm not proud of. My girlfriend did point out that I need to work on my writing, that every game I write has the same writing style, and sometimes it's hard to understand what I'm saying because I will add weird, like, flowery text or non-standard English. One thing I need to work on is my writing, and especially tutorializing. No one actually complained about it in the comments on the game, except for one guy who didn't know where to find asteroids, but I definitely need to do a much better job with a tutorial, and given that was one of the main bullet points of this game jam, it's kind of unacceptable that my tutorial was just a dialogue pop-up that you can't re-trigger, and it's possible to sometimes skip certain dialogues if you do things in the wrong order. So for my next game, I'm actually going to take a lot of time to learn and make an elegant tutorial system and find a way to code that up without it bleeding into every single code file I write. I really think the theming on this game was amazing. I really love the idea of a giant soup pot at the bottom of the universe, and I think it grounds why there's gravity for the water you're pouring. It really ties together the theming of the flying spaghetti monster, which is just a funny concept on its own, and the idea of you flinging rocks into the planet, along with the dialogue that's indicating that you're oopsie whoopsie, you're a clumsy god trying to raise a planet. And I think the windscreen is hilarious. It might just be me, but I find every single concept here to be very funny. Thank you for watching this devlog. Please subscribe and comment if you have anything to say or any advice to give. I know I didn't upload anything in February, but I'm planning to get back into the groove of uploading videos every few weeks. I've started a new project that I'm planning to give 2 months to, and once I have enough to show, I'll make a devlog showing off the concept.